What you guys, got another video here for you. Are pre-built gaming PCs any good? That's what we're going to take a look at in this video. I bought a gaming PC on Amazon and we're going to take a look at it to see what the quality is like. Now, with the current market being the way it is, you can't get a GPU for love or money. So what we did was we bought a gaming PC with a Ryzen 5 4650G in there. Now, this is the actual box. It's absolutely huge, and it come with these other boxes inside here. I've already thrown some boxes out, but this was another box inside here full of packaging and rubbish inside here, all empty boxes and stuff like that. So I think they wanted to protect the box inside, which is the computer. But do they need a box this size? Probably not. It's probably just to get rid of all their cardboard so they don't have to recycle it, and we ended up having to recycle it for them. So they did put in a spare box here for the motherboard, which has all the components in it for spare parts, cables, and other bits like that that come with the build that they did for us. There's another empty box. So we'll be putting it outside. So inside here, we've just got a computer case box with the computer inside and a bit of packaging around here. So let's get this out and we'll get it out onto the bench and take a look at it. So here we got the computer box. I'm going to get this out and this should give us access to the computer itself. Now, whether you are capable of building your own PC, I would always recommend you build your own PCs because that way you know what parts you're putting in there and you get the best quality components for your build. The problem is when you're buying PCs at this level, which is £399, there's not a lot of room for quality components. So they have to cut back somewhere. You can see this one did have a Ryzen 5 4650G, which is very hard to get hold of because it's an OEM chip. And also that's got 6 cores, 12 threads. It did have 16 gigabytes of DDR4, 3000 megahertz, which they did put 3200 megahertz in here. They're showing you that it does have SFP, which is basically a power supply company, and Crucial also, but it didn't come with any of those components in the box either. So here is the full specs of it. I'll go through and show you some of the specs. It did have a Toshiba P300 1 terabyte hard drive, which has a 64 megabyte cache. It did have the Colink Stronghold mid-tower gaming case in here. You can pick this up at around about £43.48. Now, the PC did originally have 8 gigabytes of RAM selected, and we upgraded to the 16 gigabytes on the hope that you would get dual channel memory, where you'd have 2 8 gigabyte sticks of RAM. But of course, they only sent one 16 gigabyte stick, which is no use to anyone with an APU. We also got the Prime A520M-K motherboard, as you can see listed here. And then also they put in this generic Builder Black 500 watt power supply, which obviously is about as much weight as a box of matches. It's really lightweight, and it's probably going to go up like a fireworks display. You can see here 12 times 22 amps equals 264 watts, which is not 500 watts. Now, it's probably going to be okay to use it with that APU, but as soon as you put an upgrade in there, GPU, it's going to cause problems. And you can see it was only £18. Now, if you're looking to buy all these parts yourself, you're going to have the processor. And this is where the problem is, because these are OEM chips and they cost £269.99 to buy, just like this one. Now, you can probably get them cheaper. They get them as a bulk offer, which means they can offer really cheap and affordable prices. You can go to AliExpress and buy these used for £198.94. That does come with free shipping, which is also available for 10-day delivery, which is useful if you're looking to build something like this. Now, of course, you just have to bear in mind with some of the parts that they're using. Some of the parts are OEM, and also some of them are pretty low quality, like the power supply. And we will be swapping that out with something a bit more decent. The reason for that is because there is probably no protection on that power supply, especially at the cost of £18. Now, if you look on AliExpress, you can get some bundles and deals on here, which might be able to suit your pocket. You can see here they're looking for RAM, chip, and also motherboard here, but they still want £302. Remember, we only paid £399, which isn't a bad price for a PC like that in this market. And especially it's got onboard graphics, which means we can use these, which I'll show you in another video, that you can get away by using that chip. Now, if you buy all the parts, the ones I showed you here, it's going to cost you £527, and yet we got this for £399, so we've got a pretty good deal. Unfortunately, we are going to have to upgrade some of the parts. And the reason for that is because running that PC on a single channel is not really a good idea. You do want to run this on dual channel to get the best performance out of it. So let's take a look at the actual PC and see what the build quality is like and what you're actually getting for your money. So if you can't build PCs, then pre-built PCs might be the only option available to you. But I'm just going to show you some of the pitfalls to look out for, because there is actually pitfalls in pre-built PCs. Now, if you're buying something like this, which is a custom-built PC, and these are companies that are building these and putting them on Amazon, eBay, and places like that. Now, let's take a closer look at what you get for your money. Now, if you're looking to buy a Dell or a HP, bear in mind those will be proprietary parts in there, and you won't be able to upgrade as easy. So looking at this here, you can see these cables dangling down here. This is because they've used a micro ATX motherboard inside an ATX case. And it just looks a little bit unsightly, whereas they can put an ATX motherboard in here, which will go down to the bottom, or they could use a micro ATX case, which makes the finish look a little bit nicer. Also, they've gone for a single channel memory module here. They've got 2 slots on the board, and the reason why, because they want to offer upgradability here. But the problem is we upgraded from 8 gigs to 16 gigs, and they still put a single channel slot memory in here. It's made by Team Group. Again, we've got the AMD stock cooler on here, and again, they've got an extended cable here for the fan. We've got 2 fans here, one in the front and one in the back, and they've used ketchup and mustard cables as an extended cable here, so you can plug them in, because there isn't a lot of fan headers on this motherboard. And this is another thing you have to take into account. It's a budget board and there's not much you can do with it, so it does look a little bit lost in that big case. And these are the things you have to take into account when buying these. They also got in this little Wi-Fi card here. Why they've put all the effort to put a little Wi-Fi card in, I don't know. It could have been a little bit better. We've got a cutout missing here for the GPU area. I'm not sure if that's meant to be cut out there, or whether they've popped it and then realized there's no graphics card going in this one, and now we've got a gaping hole there. Moving on to the back here, you've got your IO shield. Everything looks okay here. The build quality, in fairness, is not that bad compared to what I've seen. They've got a hard drive in the front here, which is where it's supposed to be. This is just a Toshiba 1 terabyte drive. Now, they haven't offered any sort of operating system or SSD in this build. They do offer those, but you have to upgrade and literally pay for those. So, again, really, you could have installed Windows 10 on here without activating it. It will run without an activation. So why they haven't done that, I don't know. But on the back panel here, let's just take this off and have a look. The cable management is pretty good on here, to be honest with you. But it just looks a little bit lost. I mean, that ketchup and mustard stuff, this is what you have to expect when you're buying pre-built systems. The components they're choosing are there to make maximum profit for them, and there's not much room to move here. This extension cable is because there isn't a lot of headers on that board, so they're having to use a splitter here for the 2 fans. The problem is what happens when you start adding things like fan hubs and an SSD into here and a better power supply. This is when the price will start to go up, and of course then it won't be £399. You can see the cable management is done pretty nicely. They've done a pretty good job on here. This power supply is absolute rubbish. It really is. It's £18. Again, these companies will always use rubbish power supplies, and the reason why is because they're cheap and they can build the PCs a lot cheaper. You're going to see the same thing on eBay and Amazon and all these places. Now, the Wi-Fi card was dangling down a little bit. It just looks like he's missed the screw hole there, but I can fix that. Now, all of the power supplies they'll use in their builds, same as other companies, are OEM builder power supplies. They're just cheap Chinese ones. They've got no protection on them. They're absolute rubbish. And they use them because they cost like £8 probably a pop, or even less. They're probably buying them in bulk. And I've got all the boxes here because they packed them in the actual case with it, so I know exactly what ones they are. They're rubbish, and that's how I could show you in the video. Now, these benchmarks against the 3400G are pretty impressive. The gaming experience is not going to be massively different from the 3400G, but the cores you're getting and threads, you're getting 6 cores and 12 threads, where you're only getting 4 cores and 8 threads on the 3400G. But the CPU mark score on the single thread is a lot better. And also the CPU mark is literally, double nearly. So you're getting a lot more performance on the CPU. But for gaming, there's not a massive amount of difference when it comes to gaming, unfortunately. You're not going to see like 50, 60 frames more than the 3400G. You're just going to probably get, 10 frames if you're lucky. Now, you may be wondering why I didn't just build the PC myself in the first place. And the reason why is because I couldn't get hold of that 4650G processor. It's not been released to the retail market, only the OEM builders market, which means people like this company get access to them and they can build them. Now, we'll be upgrading the power supply in here because, as I've said, the power supply is absolute rubbish. And I'm going to be adding this 650 watt fully modular power supply in here because it's a pretty good price. Also, replacing that power supply will make the PC a little bit more safer because I've seen so many cheap power supplies let go and take all of the computer components with them. Also, we will be adding a graphics card to that system at some point. So adding the power supply in now just adds that peace of mind. So when you add the graphics card, it won't have any problems running it. We will be replacing that 116 gigabyte stick of RAM in there, unfortunately. I did try to contact the company, but they're only doing email support right now because of the climate we're living in at the moment. But again, this is a pretty reasonable price. I can use that other stick for testing and other purposes. So we're just going to rip that out and put this stuff in. And this will give us a dual channel memory, which will be much more beneficial for that APU. You can't run that APU on a single channel. It's just going to be absolute rubbish. And again, there's no solid state drive in there. And we possibly will be putting in a solid state drive or something like this to make that PC a little bit more snappier compared to running Windows on a mechanical drive. So they are our future upgrades to this PC. So to answer your question, are pre-built PCs any good? And the answer to that is yes and no, depending on your circumstances and what your budget is. So when you're punching at this sort of weight with 350 to 399 pounds, you're going to be very hard pushed to try and beat the sort of price to performance that you're getting with these pre-built systems. Also, the climate we're in right now, you can't get your hands on a GPU. So buying one of these CPUs is not available to the retail market. So you might have to go with something like this and then tweak it to your own needs later on down the line. Also, if you can't build a PC, then buying a pre-built might be your only option and then adding a graphics card to that at a later date, as long as it's not one of those proprietary type systems which restricts you in some ways, like, for instance, a small form factor or something like that. Just take all those into account. Also, if you're buying PCs at this sort of price point, be prepared for very low quality power supplies that have very low power ratings like this one, which means when you go to put in a graphics card, it's probably not going to work properly, or it's going to put that system at risk because it will be going over the amount of wattage that it actually can handle. Although it says 500 watts, you're not actually getting 500 watts with that power supply. You're also going to have those nasty ketchup and mustard cables all over the case. Micro ATX motherboard in a large case does look a little bit lost in there. And again, look out for other things like one single sticker RAM, which is very common, which means you'll be running on single channel or not dual channel. And there is a big major difference with dual channel and single channel memory performance, especially with APUs like these ones. So bear that in mind as well. Also, before I end the video, just make sure that you do your research. Make sure the PC that you're buying does everything that you want it to do, and it has everything in there that you need to do what you want it to do, and it can play the games that you're expecting it to play. Other than that, you should be good to go. All in all, the build quality was not bad, but this is exactly what pre-built systems are. In the next video, I'll be doing some benchmarks and other stuff so you can see what the PC performs like. My name has been Brian from briteccomputers.co.uk. Have a great weekend. Bye for now.